Mr. Chairman, this contract awarded to Gabe Loyola and for providing technical assistance for interpretation and implementation of federal and state rules, regulations, and policies under the Federal Workforce Innovation and Opportunities Act. We have employed him since 2002. We have compensated him in excess of $1.1 million, 16 years. And my question is, why has no one within the grants department or within one of the departments developed the expertise to review state and federal regulations and policies as related to federal workforce innovation policies? I think we could save an awful lot of money if we had someone internal doing these types of reviews, plus people would learn something by actually reading the rules and regulations. We have to comply with them, so I don't understand why we're so dependent on a contractor who hasn't changed in 16 years. Has anybody got a response to why we don't develop this expertise internally? I've asked this question before, and it always seems to be the same answer. Just because we have this individual that can read state and federal rules and regulations and federal policies. I think it's necessary that we understand those already, or we wouldn't be administering grants appropriately.
Mr. Huckleberry?
Mr. Chairman, let me allow the Chief Deputy to respond.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Supervisor Miller, first of all, this went out to an RFP to provide these services a year ago and was re-RFP'd, so while he has been providing services for a certain number of years, the new contract began last year. There are 7 elements for which he is evaluated and the contract is evaluated, one of which is looking at some of the state and federal policies. When the department went out for RFP a year ago, the discussion was that Mr. Loyola has decades of knowledge and expertise, not only dealing with the specific grants, which we do have now within Grants Management and Innovation and other associations, but a fairly unique understanding of some of the federal policies, changes, staffing agreements, as well as new activities that are going on at the state. And for us to add additional staff would be in excess of the amount that he's paid through his contract. Actually, when you look at last year's contract, we haven't even drawn down the full amount. This is a cap. He invoices and bills monthly as needed for the Workforce Investment Board that also assists with the evaluation of his contract.
I would just add that, it seems to me we've done a good job in workforce development over the years, and actually been a program and a site that has been honored many times nationally for the work that we've completed. In part, Mr. Loyola adds an extra dimension to all of that. So I think your characterization of his work just being sitting around and reading federal regulations is really not quite accurate, although it's a temptation to look at it that way, but I don't think that's really accurate. I think it's about institutional knowledge surrounding the subject. I also think it's about relationships that he has within the Department of Labor and other sources that have helped to build our one-stop center and our workforce development efforts into something that has really been very successful. 1.1 million over 16 years is a very impressive figure, but I would argue that we've probably received money in excess of that just because of our ongoing relationship with Loyola Associates.
Mr. Supervisor Elias, I did not characterize it the way you described. I said the issue I have is why are we not developing this expertise in-house, as we need to understand and interpret state rules, policies, understand regulations in order to administer those. And I just believe that we don't have to hire additional personnel. I believe we have plenty of personnel who can take care of this function, and that I believe we should have this expertise in-house versus outsourcing it. So that's just my opinion and my belief that we should not be outsourcing this and continuing this. contract. So I'm going to vote no on this contract.
Well, I'm sure of that, and I just do appreciate you restating it so that maybe everybody understood a little better what you were trying to say. Any further discussion? Then, any objections?
I object.
I object.
2 objections noted for Supervisor Christie and Supervisor Miller.